one child that's 22. I got one that's 16. I got one that's 14. And I haven't told them flat out, not that I would tell them what to do with their lives, but, I haven't geared them away from public safety or haven't geared them towards it. Because that's a big concern, is can you make a career like you could 30 years ago?
I think the kids are different too. Because, I got my son in there.
Well, and that's the thing is they're young and they see it and they believe what they see on TV and they want to help. They want to be, part of the solution.
Yep.
But it is getting more and more difficult to make it a 20 or 30-year career, especially if your mindset is, I just want to be a medic.
Yep.
First of all, you got to find the right department. Second of all, physically, it's kind of like being a professional athlete. I mean, people make fun of us because we're fat and out of shape, blah, blah, blah. Why do you think? I mean, you look at the,
your sleep patterns, stress levels,
people,
all that stuff.
They get into this young. I mean,
you don't have time at the station to go on a treadmill for 30 minutes. You kidding me? You ain't gonna eat a nice. I mean, you can meal prep a lot easier than you used to, man. Before, forget it.
And I don't even know what the average lifespan is. I mean, for a long time, the number you threw out there was 7 years, and now I believe it's less than that.
Yeah.
And everybody focuses on the mental health. They're like, oh, these guys are getting burnt out. It's not the calls that burn you out. It's like you said, like Anthony said, it's the hours, the flip flop.
Yeah.
But it is doable.
You got family stress going on.
Yeah,
you can't have a girlfriend. You can't have a relationship with someone on flip flop shifts.
It's extremely difficult.
You can't.
Extremely difficult. But you can make it a career. You just got to decide what kind of career you want.
Yeah.
And
if you're willing to travel a lot,
right.
If you're mobile, God, you can make a ton of money.
You can make a ton of money. Then it comes in retirement where you got to figure,
You have to plot your own. Well, I think you're smarter plotting your own retirement now because, see, that's the other thing is 20 years ago, right, the economy was horrible. There wasn't a lot of jobs, but you kind of gravitated towards city departments because you knew you had a state retirement. Like I had a state retirement. So I knew no matter, and they were good. Now you guys got to pay into that and they're not good. Because that's the first thing they're cutting back. See, with me, I'm good. You're good. You're in the old system. But like when you talk about coming in, I tell people, invest your own money. Take a little bit out each month, put it away, put it into something. Buy gold coins or something, but do something. But and then you're free to go from different departments. I think the days of staying at the same department for 25 years because I want to get good health care, which you're not going to get, you're better off private. If you do private, man, like these oil rigs or overseas contracts,
these big
damn son,
sites where they're putting up power plants or these windmill farms and whatnot.
They all need medics.
Well, that's what your kid's doing, right?
No, he's not.
He was
was
did for like 5 years.
working on like construction sites and.
But it is doable. It is doable, but
But again, he would have to be willing every 6 months because at the end of that contract, you're done.
Yeah,
so at the end of that 6 months,
packing up and going somewhere else.
All those guys were like, "Yeah, we're going to Atlanta for like 2 weeks." Like, you may have a new job, you may have a new contract, you may not. Some of those companies, you go, so you have to keep money with you. And I think the good thing about this about people now is that they are able to like do these little like I see a lot more people doing these conversion vans. Get one of these Freightliners and convert them, sprinters, and they'll just roll out. They'll just move with the construction site or move with a job and just stay there.
And that is one of the nice things about EMS is it's not as good as nursing because we don't have, a licensure. However, the skills are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of paperwork,
Now, what do you think about them? They want to require licensure.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
To be a paramedic?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for the.
See, I don't think so.
I think establishing ourselves like the career nursing.
It ain't gonna matter. Listen, you could be licensed, blessed. You can have the Pope come down and sign your paper. To that charge nurse, you are a medic. And I'm telling you, it ain't ever going to change. It ain't ever going to change.
Well, that's a culture change. It would take a couple of generations, but I think if for nothing else, like we're talking about, when you do have to relocate, it should streamline the process.
Well, if they let it streamline, because that's what National Registry was supposed to do. Right. You were supposed to be good in all 50 states. We all know you're not good in all 50 states. Not even close.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter. You still got to retake the test. It's like, oh yeah, you're a medic. National Registry, big deal.
Licensure should streamline that process.
But who's going to be in charge of that process?
Licenses?
Medics or nurses? Because if it's nurses, they're always going to scale it back.
Your state health departments, because that's who's running it now.
Well, that and degree requirements.
Well, and that's another that's a
Nursing,
whole nother
you have a
thing.
degree requirement. You at least an associate's. If you're just your basic RN, that's an associate's program,
Yeah.
and you're you signed off. You're an RN, and then if you want to go get your BSN, that
Mhm.
makes you even
Yeah.
more hireable. That gives you more money.
Yeah.
That's the
but
same
that's-
same thing with paramedicine. If paramedicine as a whole came together and they're talking about doing it with
You got to think about the consequences though of what you're doing, because if you look at what was it, New York, they just had that report come out. They're so short on EMTs right now. They don't even know what they're going to do.
Well, that's the other thing.
You got a lot of Ohio. What Ohio? They said all those people didn't research.
Well, that's the other. Well, Arkansas, I know, is going through a huge hemorrhaging right now. But you got to also look at the licensure. That might also help with the salary, which is a huge
maybe.
problem.
Well,
that's
that-
why.
But the
the
problem
degree
with all that
requirements,
stuff is
you can have a 2-year medic, you can have a 4-year medic, just like overseas. And I know how they do it in the UK with
remember 20 years ago they went through this conversation, right around 2000, right?
Right when they did the curriculum
See, a lot of the times when you hear somebody sit there and say
agenda, EMS,
it's because we've heard it before
for the future.
You know what I mean? Like we've heard it before. Like we went through this
I'm not
before.
against it though. I mean,
But they got to follow through with everything.
Right.
If you make the medics jump through all these hoops, and then at the end of the day, they just look and go, yeah, whatever. They got to give them full standing orders. They got to give them more wide ranging of stuff to do. If you're going to make it a degree requirement, you got to make it worth it. Otherwise, what are you doing? You're making them go through a degree that, to be honest with you, I think they got way too many medics. I think the medics need to be scaled back.
Well, that's part of the degree program.
Well, that would be the degree program. You could have your associate's level medic, which is your
But I mean, if
baseline, and then you have when you get your bachelor's.
Well, see, when I say scale back, remember what was the requirement before you were a medic? You had to have 3 years as an EMT. You had to have so many recommendations. It wasn't just I got money, give me class. It was Listen, I remember when I graduated, I was one of 7 out of 50.
And the studies have shown that you can have a dilution of skills.
Yes.
You have too many medics. You don't have enough innovations. You don't have enough codes. You don't have enough,
You train up your EMTs, right? You make EMTs can handle 90% of the calls now. You get nitro,
but the other trend
NEBs, all
you
that
can see
stuff.
The other trend that you have to factor into that, though, is you look across the country. The model is now EMT or medic. There's nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
So the individual also has to say to themselves, do I want to be a medic?
Yeah.
Can I be a medic? Because let's face it, there's people out there that they're a great EMT, but they will never move up to the medic. So you come with the pay thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Can I survive? Okay, yeah, I'm 21. I can live off EMT pay. Well,
can you be a 40-year-old EMT?
Right. So that's the biggest thing.
And that's where that EMT, that mid-level comes in, the EMT advanced, or if it falls down to a degree requirement, you have your entry-level EMT, you have your associate's level medic, and then you can have your bachelor's level of,
and that's
whatever you want to call it, critical care medic, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it.
See, to me, having 2 classes of medics is dangerous. Because do you really want that lesser? To me, this is just me. To me, you're either going to be a medic or you're not. You can make that person like, an A. Maybe we'll let you stick an IV in somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll let you give like 2 or 3 drugs. That's great, but that's about it. But like to me, the medic thing should either be, if you are going to do it, that's the big if. There's got to be a lot that comes with it that they got to follow through on the back end. But to me, it should be a small group, and that's it. You're a medic. Remember, it used to mean something. You got that jacket. You were like, you got your glitter patch. You were like, come on, son.
Well, and that's part of.
And you don't have that nowadays.
Like you were saying with the degree program, you'd have to have the departments across the states and across the country.
They'd have to recognize it.
They would have to say, look.
And you know who's going to fight you?
You don't have that 4-year. You can't do RSI.
And you know who's going to fight you? Tooth and nail.
Fire department.
Because they don't want to pay more money for that.
Well, they had what was
H&R Block,
NAEMT was coming out with one of the organizations had that paper come out saying that they wanted
they did a white paper
for degree requirements. This was in the past year, and fire organizations completely shut it down.
Oh, I bet they did.
Shut it down.
I've been watching it. I've been seeing IFF and guessing in their defense, I would too. If I'm a city department, what did I tell you? H&R Block or CPA?
Mm-hmm.
They're both going to do my taxes. If I don't care that I'm not going to get an extra like $600 back, but it's still going to get done and I'm not going to get audited, I just don't want the $600.
But it is a viable career. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I look at EMS a lot like the military. There are some people who just going in for a particular reason. They want life experience.
I want 4 years and I want college.
Right.
And that's fine.
It's fairly easy to get into. I can get some work experience, some real world experience. I can mature a little bit.
That DD-214, I'll guarantee me a job.
I could do some stuff that, is going to be cool, that when I'm 60 years old, I can tell the grandkids, I used to do this. And then there's other people who are going to be in it for life. They're going to move up the ranks and, they're going to stay in, and then they're eventually going to retire. So I think that's how you just got to be realistic to people when you look at them and say, oh, you want a career in EMS? Well, think about what you're doing and what you want. Because if you are one of them people who's not going to get their degree or just doesn't have the ability to be a paramedic, you might want to say, oosh, I can't live off of EMT pay when I'm 40.
Well, and that's where what I'm getting at with the associate's level, bachelor's level, is that I think one of the issues with people staying with this for a long period of time is that there's a plateau that you hit.
Oh yeah.
Unless you have higher education.
Yeah.
If you want to be a chief somewhere, if you want to
and
move
up
the
departments
ranks,
they're requiring it.
Yeah, if you want to move up the ranks in a municipal system to supervisor or anything above that administratively, you have to have bachelor's, master's.
Because private, you're not guaranteed that job. They can turn around tomorrow and say, "Yeah, see you."
But
I've seen that. Yeah.
But so again, with the degrees and different steps, that creating an actual career progression as a medic. With nursing, you have your associate's level RN, you have your bachelor's level
never
RN.
Going to be a CLIN 2, for example.
Correct.
Never going to be a nursing supervisor.
Then you got your bachelor's RN. Then you got your master's nurse practitioner. You got all these different levels of, hey, I really like nursing. I can move up in this field as far as I want. All the way up to whatever that plateau is, which is a lot higher than the paramedic plateau.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think it could be done and needs to be done. But
do I think you could be happy in a career as a paramedic? I don't think nowadays. I think there's too much public stuff going on. We get drug into a lot of public stuff that you don't want to get drug into. We've become, and you can go back to 20 years ago, man. I don't remember getting the kind of calls you get now. Now you get a lot of.
You did, but they were
very few and far between.
And suburbia has changed.
Yes.
You used to not have suburbia. Used to be suburbia.
Yep.
Nice, quiet. Yeah, you get your chest pains, your codes.
You get grandpa was mowing the lawn.
The occasional gunshot, but suburbia has become more urban in the call types and volumes than before.
And a lot more psych calls and a lot more violent drug calls. Not even like. We used to go on drug calls back, man. Remember right after 2000, after 9/11, when they sealed the borders, and that's when people were like mixing stuff in their bathtub because nothing was coming in. That's when you saw like ecstasy, ketamine. People were raiding vets because nobody knew what ketamine was. Nobody knew what ketamine was.
That was literally punching out every piece of glass in this trailer because he was seeing his reflection. And I, to this day, have no clue what he's on. I have no clue what the kid was on. He's combative as hell. I'm like, I'm not going to hit this kid with Haldol because I don't know what's in his system.
Yeah.
So I take him to the hospital, and he's just like berserk. So this is what I do to him. He's like, I want your name and badge number. He thinks I'm a cop. And I'm like, all right. I said, so check it out, cuz. I said, my name is Anthony Siciliano.
Yeah. I remember this night.
You, Siciliano! Ah, and
I came walking into Beach General. All the nurses are like red in their face, laughing, hysterical, right? And I hear, fuck you, Anthony Siciliano. And I'm going, what the hell? And Pete walks out and goes, and walked out.
Check this guy out in the room, whatever. And he walks in there, and the guy's like, fuck you. And Anthony's like, what did I do? He's like, fuck you, Siciliano. He's like, how does he even know me? And I'll tell you, I'll go even farther back. There was a time we didn't have sedation. You would have the patient scream into the microphone. You had to order for 2 milligrams of morphine. So when we had psych patients, we had to remember we used to sandwich them between the scoop stretchers? I mean, and I hate to say it, but we learned the hard way about positional fixation. Yep. Because back in them days,
you loosen it up a little bit.
The only way you could take them down, the rule was if you can't breathe, you can't fight. Well, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that we were malicious, but man, these people.
We didn't have the tools, man. Mm-hmm. And then we'd walk into the hospital, the doctor would come in and give one shot, and they'd be out. We'd be like, really, dude? Like, seriously? Like, we'd be all torn up, like beat up. Oh my God! Oh, that's a funny story I have when I started it.
But you're right.
Yeah.
The drugs. The things we're seeing.
Oh, horrible violence.
Yeah.
Horrible
And
violence.
you started in the inner city, right? You started in a bad, like,
Yeah. But see, but here's the funny thing. When I got in there, most of the people were dead or in jail. I mean, they were. So the calls that we would get is nothing but BS, which is dangerous. You get a ton of BS calls. That's when you sneak in that little AAA with that person, that little bit of like,
let your guard down.
yeah. And it was easy to do that. I think those are more dangerous, are the mundane calls. And people come into EMS with unreal expectations because they watch. Remember in our day, it was Rescue 911. I watched Rescue 911, and this guy, and nobody ever died on that show. Never. I think that was actually one of Shatner's things, is that no one could die. They had to live at the end.
Was that old? That's an old show.
Hey,
right?
hey. You watch your tongue.
Yeah.
Watch your tongue. How old?
But where they recreate the emergencies,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's still
Shatner
on,
was
it's still on
narrating
TV
it.
at like
They
3
would do
o'clock
like
in the morning.
stock footage.
Oh God!
And you would have Shatner's voice in the
And it
back.
would be the most ridiculous calls. Man fell out of the airplane at 30,000 feet. He landed with had bilateral femur fractures. Barely talks, but he lived, and he'd be on the show, man, talking through the little robot voice.
But I mean,
But they all lived. Nobody died.
we used to have the alcohol. Those were the ones, and occasionally you would have somebody wigging out on coke or crack or something.
PCP. Those were the big ones. You had
PCP
someone
was-
smoke a joint that was laced with PCP. You know how I found out about what was the high blood pressure medicine or not high, the cold medicine? It was the cold medicine people were starting to
Triple
use.
C.
Yeah. Corset and
Corset.
cough
Yeah,
and cold.
chloroquine, because they had it for people with high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So we went to a group home, and it was like a public school that had all their OSS. They went to these old military barracks that were out in the middle of nowhere, right? It was an old missile site. So we go in there for a kid who's just not acting right. Girl's like, they're just not acting right. I don't know what's wrong. We roll in there, and that kid is like walking back and forth. His face is all flushed. Pupils were huge. And I'm like, what's wrong, man? He's like, oh, I'm just nervous. That's it. That was his answer. I'm nervous. Then she brings me another kid, same symptoms. You separate them. What do you do? Oh, I'm just nervous.
Uh-oh.
So I looked at the kid. I said, let me tell you something. I was holding like a 14 gauge. I said, you see this needle? I'm going to start an IV with this needle. If you don't tell me what the hell's going on, because you're not going to have like these two, right? Oh, they went to Walmart. They stole all this chloroquine. The one dude broke off from the group, stole like 10 boxes of it.
This is back before they got smart and put the shit behind the counter.
Well, remember-
It's not behind the counter though.
Well, now it's
Corset.
locked up, I
No,
think.
I-
or
No.
No,
Corset.
is some of it isn't, but all that shit.
whatever
back
the
then.
whatever the
cough-
chemical
All
in
the
was.
cough. It's the cough. It's the cough suppressant in there. Or the
Remember the
cough-
gypsum weed calls you used to get?
Dextromethorphan.
Yeah.
Remember
It's
the
same
gypsum
stuff
weed
that's
ones?
in the.
They had these 4 kids got in
In
a
the
car
cough syrup.
accident on gypsum weed, and they all scattered to different areas. So you're getting calls popping off for psych patients, like all in the same neighborhood. It was these 4 kids on gypsum weed, and they think they wanted to like sedate the one kid. Man, like it was bad. It was combative, but that was when we started seeing that uptick. It was around 2000. They started getting a little more violent. Then it kind of died off.
Well, what's the gypsum weed? I remember hearing about it.
Jamestown weed.
It's a
on, man.
weed literally that grows on the side of the highway. And
Yeah.
a lot
Okay,
of
so
places-
now-
Behind every
So not
Walmart.
synthetic. Not
I-
synthetic.
no.
They boil it
natural.
down and they make a tea out.
See, you got to
Yeah.
remember, this was when the internet was first starting. So people were like, wow, if you eat a bunch of nutmeg, you're going to get high off it. If you, take whatever pill, you're going to get high off it. If you smoke whatever plant, right? We get calls. People would huff all the time. Jesus, God, we got all those calls for huffers. They'd get startled and run, and they would be straight asystolic, dead. Boom.
But
They have like a 15-year-old kid just drop dead.
and the other,
Inhalants were big.
and that's big for the folks who think about wanting to make this a career, is you got to be real careful in your early development, because you can go to
Mhm.
college and get all that degrees and stuff. But
Those
you
are
look at
nice.
us, like we worked a combination. We worked volunteer EMS. A lot of us got transport jobs because you had to pay the bills.
Mhm.
So you got
Yeah.
the clinical part of it, and then eventually morphed into public safety. But you got rural EMS, you got hardcore city, and they all have their different.
And I'll tell you about the
We got rich
transport medics.
suburbia.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
The transport medics, man, a lot of people foo-foo that job. And I look at them and say, you will never see better disease processes, ever, than doing that. And reading the H&H, man, I would sit there reading H&H a whole trip.
Yeah.
Just read it and be like, my God, man, look at this history. And I got a lot of kids who just foo-foo that off. That, I don't want to do transport. Because I think that's the other downside is nowadays, those expectations, everyone wants the big call. They want to go to the big event. They want to, and they did when we were in it. But
it was
I
different.
would look at my students and I'd say, Okay, all you people that are in here expecting to go on the big call, you know what 90% of your call is? Someone just needs a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Could took an Uber. A lot of places they actually are taking Ubers. They can take an Uber there. They don't have to. They just think you're going to get seen quicker.
That's the other half of this equation is what's EMS even going to look like 20, 30 years?
Let me tell you something. There's people that are using Uber to get to the hospital.
You go back to your degree program.
Yeah.
It may become a necessity because we may not transport.
Yeah. Are you treating them at home? You going to be like a nurse practitioner?
You look at technology. You got mobile X-ray. You got eye stats. Ultrasounds coming. Dopplers coming.
And the hospitals ain't getting no bigger.
You know,
they're not going to get bigger,
so
and you're not going to get more of them.
So that's another career path. Is could you do that? Like you said, get your education as you work up the ranks, become a nurse practitioner or a PA, or maybe another level paramedic.
Yeah.
And now you're going doing house calls.
God, remember when we started and pulse oxes were like the most amazing thing. People were like, oh my God, this is going to change how we do medicine. And I remember my partner just was reading the paper, right? And he's just looking, and he looked up and he goes, pink good, blue bad, and looked back down at the paper. That's all he said. He said, pink good, blue bad. And he never used it. He was like, I need that thing to tell me that that's the other thing is you have a lot of people that the technology got better, like with end title with capnography is so much better than having freaking a pulse ox, but take that away from those people.
Well, it's just
now you don't have an end title.
Like the internet.
Or it broke. Now what?
Just like the internet. It's a great tool.
All you got to do is shut down the GPS on these kids on the ambulance, shut it down. And then they go, map. Oh, my. Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's all, the pages are all like stuck together and shit.
Well, and that's where that extra education comes into play. Because when you go through, you guys went through paramedic school a little while before I went through paramedic school. So, but a couple days. I beat you guys. Y'all beat me by a semester. But a lot of what they're teaching is the numbers and memorizing. What's a good end title? 35 to 45.
Yeah.
If it's high, then they're not breathing enough or they're not exhaling enough, or whatever. But what you're not getting in school, and you can't even get in your clinicals in school, is the hands-on experience of actually interacting with patients.
Yes.
And
remember we used to have to. You used to have to do reports on them. And
literal hands-on, though. Like, literally put your hands on the patient. Because everyone looks at the numbers and they're like, yeah, they're good. Meanwhile, they got bilateral flail.
And I'm going to be even better for you. You know why?
Cage.
And now I'm going to sound so old with this. You damn kids don't have any interpersonal skills. Everything is, and we're just as bad. I'm not going to say that we're not. Everything's going. Would you rather call or text someone?
Right.
Right. So we're just as bad. But the interpersonal skill, like we have it like a switch. Like we still, if you look at your medics that are better with patients, they're more your older medics because we had to. You couldn't look at something and be like, well, I guess, or I think. It was like, dude, you better take that shirt off and touch him.
Well, and you look at it now, you're doing the distance learning. I mean, you have all these hybrid courses where
you got EMT
I know
classes.
A girl that teaches
you got EMT classes
that
you don't even have to. EMT classes where half the class you don't even have to be there for.
There's a girl that teaches paramedic on Twitter.
Which is, I think,
what does that tell you?
I think your biggest argument for this step-in phase. Get your associates and tell them.
Yeah.
You're going to get your associates and you're going to hit the street. You're not going to be accepted into a bachelor program right away because you're going to get your associates distance learning. I mean, that's the way of the future. Let's face it.
Yeah, everything's online.
Well, and it's just like going to a PA program. And that's where the salary difference and stuff. It's just like you have to get accepted, just like going to bachelor's of nursing
online,
school.
and
you have to apply. You have to apply for that school.
Yeah,
you don't just get in. You don't just say, "Hey, I got $15,000.
That's going to cost.
Give me a BSN."
It's going to cost because you're going to get that extra level of training.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll bring something to it because you've been on the street for a couple of years.
Well, it's just like PA program. They're not going to teach you how to do a blood pressure.
Right.
No. I'm going to circle back to it. You do transport medicine for 2 years. Let me tell you what you'll be taking every single day. Taking the blood pressure, you'll be getting patient contact, you'll be getting that interpersonal skills down.
You learn what sick looks like.
Yep.
You learn sick looks like.
And you learn how to talk to somebody because you see the person every day 3 times a week. It's going to be more than just, hey, Miss Smith, bye, Miss. You're going to actually talk to them.
Well, so here's the other question. So to be a police officer, you have to be at least 21 years old. Do you think 18 is too young to step into the realm of EMS and paramedicine?
I hate putting an age on stuff because let me tell you something. I know 18-year-olds that are more mature than like some 40-year-olds.
But do they have the life experience? So you talk about having
Yeah.
interpersonal skills and talking to people. If you're fresh out of high school and you just started your first semester of EMT, do you have any life experience to bring to the table?
I think they
I
should
think
teach life
part
experience.
of that problem is EMT is such a generic skill set
Mhm.
because you can be an EMT working in some clinic at a paper factory somewhere.
See, to me, I think they should require these students to talk to people. See, to me, personally, if I did my own EMT program, I would get a deal at one of the local nursing homes, and I would pair up a student with a staff member, or with, with a resident. I'd pair up a student with a resident. I'd say, I want you to become this person's best friend. I want you to take care of them. I want you to do all their vitals. I want you to do any wound changes. I want you to do any cleaning, everything. You're going to take care
Under
of this patient.
supervision. I mean, you'll
Under-
have,
under- you know, you have your
CNA and
yeah.
LPNs
But you know
and
what
all
I'm
that.
saying? You give them someone that they have to do more than just, I mean, that's the thing is that I think interpersonal skills more than, listen, I could teach anybody to give a milligram of IV or a milligram of Epi IV every 5 minutes.
Mhm.
That's very simple to do.
I can teach you blind one arm a monkey.
You-
And now with IOs, you really don't need to start an IV. IV is not even an art form anymore.
For
You just
running-
humeral IO, zoom, and
If
you're
they,
done.
if they really wanted to, humeral IO, and you can have EMTs push them. That's because it's
That's it.
not hard to
It's not
push
hard.
1 milligram of epi. You're not.
You have
There's no technique
preset
to it.
meds. You give this at this.
Yeah, and most of our epi
And I hate
syringes
to
are
tell you,
preloaded.
They're doing studies. They're doing studies where they're saying, are the drugs even making a difference?
Right.
Mhm.
Are the drugs even making
I
a
mean,
difference?
the age thing is tough because, at 18, you're expected. So a lot of people are out there trying to make a living,
Mhm.
and they're trying to start their career path, and that's going back to what you're saying. It's kind of tough in EMS because there really isn't an entry level per se. We call them entry level medics and all that. That's BS.
It is.
Because if you're a paramedic and you've got used to your first day, and you get thrown into that big one,
Mhm.
guess what?
Yeah.
You ain't entry level.
You're not entry level no more.
And years ago, I had a guy that that he did that. He came up. He was a volunteer firefighter. He had a career change. He said, "Oh, I'm going to go do this accelerated paramedic class that they had locally
Yeah.
in the state we were in." And so he did it. Sure enough, man, kid got a job right out of school. First couple of weeks, holy shnikes, he picked the wrong department to get hired. His first warning sign should have been when he walked in the office, put his application, and the guy said, "National Registry Paramedic, hold on a minute." Called the local sheriff, said, "Is this guy good? All right, then," and threw him a t-shirt and said, "Get on the truck." That should have been your first indication. You haven't interviewed. That should tell you how bad they're hurting for medics, So they literally did. They put the kid on a truck straight out of class. He had no personal street experience. Within a month, he's calling me and he's like, "Pete, I'm at the house and I'm holding a pistol." I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "I need you to get over here." And I get over there. I'm like, "What's going on with you?" He goes, "I've killed 3 people this month." Then that's his mind because he got in on these calls and he was over his head.
Mhm.
And there's no entry level.
Yeah.
We call them entry level medics. Well, if he ain't backed up by some senior guys,
Mhm.
dude, and that goes back to what you're saying with the age limit. So we need like a true entry level, going back almost to where like your first responder driver.
Yeah.
Like, you can be 18, but this is it. You're
Yeah.
gonna become
This is as far as you're going to go.
You're not going to be really in
I have no
charge.
problem with restricting paramedics to 21. I have no
Well,
problem.
that's what I mean.
Paramedics.
That's what I.
Right.
Paramedics, yes.
'Cause you're
EMTs,
pushing
I
narcotics.
think 18.
Yeah.
I think 18 for EMT you can
Yeah.
still do.
You're
I mean,
pushing-
you be in the military.
You're pushing narcotics. You're pushing paralytics,
Yeah.
depending on what department you're at.
And to be honest with you, that gives you that 3. If you have that kid that is really hungry for those 3 years, he's going to be doing everything that he can to get trained up. Because when I look at my kid and I'm like, dude, when I wanted to be a medic, I was flashcards every day with me. Flashcards. I think nowadays the general census is, well, I should just be a paramedic.
Mhm.
I should just be it. And, talking to a lot of instructors around the country, they got students that are like, well, I don't understand why I failed this class. Well, you haven't shown up for most of them. You
Mhm.
failed to turn this in. Yeah, but so?
Mhm.
but why didn't I just get it?
I mean, that's one of the few things
You got to do that. You got to go in the trenches. You got to do
As
that
much
crap work.
I'm a big fan of the distance learning and these hybrid classes, but
Mhm.
that is one of the pitfalls. Is like you were saying, is people learn a canned textbook answer.
Yeah.
And you look at them. I mean, we hear it all the time. New medic, you ask them a question, they give you right out of the book, and you're looking at them. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And they kind of look at you.
Yeah.
Well, I understand because I passed the test.
Mm-hmm.
The computer said, "What is the answer to this?" And I put the textbook answer. It said, "Yay! You know, you're an A student."
Okay, now that's not available. Now what? That
Right.
drug's not available.
Or
What
how
can
do
you
you
give
apply?
instead?
Or what does that
what can you do?
truly mean?
Mhm.
You know, to say something,
Yeah.
you know, is going
Yeah,
to.
what does that mean that you give nitro? What does that mean?
Or it's an alpha one,
Yeah.
you know, agonist or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's great.
Okay,
What does that
great.
mean?
You know, okay, yeah, you just gave me a science textbook.
Now, remember when you had to go through oral boards and you give the doctor some goofy answer
Ooh.
like that, and they would sit there and be like this, put their pen down. Why don't you tell me what that? And they would all sit back, fold their arms.
But a lot of places don't even do oral
No,
boards
they
anymore.
don't.
It's
They
so
just
rare
go,
to see
"Ooh, you're
that.
medic, go."
Mhm.
Yeah, you got to pass tests just like to get.
But I
the
remember
national
going through
registry,
oral
you pass
boards,
the written
man. They
test.
used to tell us right off the bat, man, don't get slick, don't get smart. You'll regret it.
But that's where
And they don't do that anymore. You can't call someone out because
But
they'll get mad.
You know, it's the same question like when a kid comes to you and says, "I want to go in the military."
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to really stop and say, "Whoa," you know, or is it something you want to get into, get your feet wet, and then decide later that you want to make a career out of it? That's not, you know. But the problem with that is you're going to spend some money.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying for your books, you're paying for your education.
Yeah.
That's an investment, you know, and you know, I tell people all the time, you know, what do you want to invest in? You know, a nursing degree or a paramedic, you know, certificate. You know, because I mean, some of these programs across the country, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Tuition's up. Even go to a community college, that's a significant investment.
What's the running rate going? 12
start to finish?
Yeah,
probably about 12,000.
Yeah.
For
I mean, that's probably
generally for your associate, you know, associates in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
but then you got to factor EMT into that, so tack on another 1,800.
Yeah.
See, to me, I think they should have trade schools that they allow to be. I don't think it needs to be a college thing.
Well, you know, the only problem with that, though, Anthony, is the science. I mean, you know, like we were saying earlier, the science is getting more complicated. You know,
well, it is.
Let's face it. Back in our day, I mean, come on, the protocol book was 10 pages.
But the sciences get more complicated, but also the devices are getting more accurate.
We didn't have, you know, computers. We didn't have to know about the internet and all this mess.
You have places now that they have they have the camera link.
Yeah.
The dog's tail is ruining our camera feed.
Uh-oh. Where are we off? Are we better now?
Yeah, we're better.
But you look at you know, and who knows what the future's. I mean, they're feeling it in the hospital. You know, and I mean, you look at these hospital turnovers. I don't care where you go. They're
burning through nurses, man.
And the first
burning
interaction
through them.
in the ER, the nurse she's interacting with a computer.
Yeah.
Unless it's a super critical call, they don't even lay hands on the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you got to dedicate somebody to do the computer work.
Yeah.
So is that something that EMS is going to morph into? You know, there's that part of it. You know, you look at this kid who might be a great street person, but if he's
can't work with technology, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, because back then it was optional. God, I miss paper reports.
But I mean, you look, 12 leads.
Don't laugh. Remember when we used to make our own 12 leads?
Yeah.
You had modified chest leads.
Mm-hmm.
You used to put in lead 3, and you'd put all the stickers like you'd put all your V leads, and you would just go from one to the other, and you would just hit print.
Right on it.
Dude, you would walk into the ER with like paper like this long.
Hey,
how are you?
And you would have to write on the printout which
MCL1, MCL2, like you'd write all of it. So you didn't get your AVL and AVF leads, but you had your MCL leads at least.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, we thought we were such hot shit. We would walk into that ER like we were cardiologists, like ha 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 ha. And we didn't even know what the hell the shit was.
Yeah.
They have elevation here. What does that mean? I don't know. Look, I'm looking cool walking in like this, man. Come on.
But yeah, it's changing. So you got a lot of things, you know, and that's what scares me is what's EMS going to be like 2030? Is that kid even going to have a job?
Yeah.
Is it going to morph into something way different?
You're not going to have a driver. Driver's going to be an automatic thing. You just sit in the truck. It drives you, because I don't think you'll ever get a computer for the patient.
You're starting to see mission creep. You're starting to see fire guys become medics become fire, cops becoming medics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing a lot of cops getting EMT level training now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of police departments across the country that are bringing in paramedics and EMTs as part of the police academies. Mm-hmm. You look at your deputies and your sheriffs and the corrections officers.
Mm-hmm.
They're having to start learning mental health things.
Yeah.
They're trying to start
Yeah.
their medication.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, CIT
And that's the other part is EMS going to go deeper? Are you going to have EMS that does
what's that stand for?
crisis intervention team?
Yeah.
So so you're starting to see a blending. So is it not even going to be? Is it going to be like public safety something where then you choose? Oh, I'm going to go law enforcement primarily. So it used to be criminal. What still is criminal justice. If you want,
I remember when they had public safety officers, and you were a firefighter and a police officer, and you kept an SCBA in your trunk.
Mm-hmm. They still have that in some, not around
sure
here.
They do.
They have that out west.
But that's where you talk about getting creative.
But
they got a department out west that run 24s, and either first or last half you're a police officer. The second half you go to the fire station.
Yeah, see, and Arm and EMS providers, I'm gonna tell you that's a conversation that scares the
we could do 8
out of
hours
me.
on that.
That's scary. I know you're against it.
I'm not against it.
I'm not against certain people having it. I think
we don't
that
have to do 8
certain
hours,
people
but we
should.
definitely discuss it.
Well, so to me, it's like a lot of things in EMS.
Well, sure, because it's the future. Like they're listen. There's a limit how much you can cram into our job.
People want a freaking. It starts out first day of paramedic school.
Yeah.
What's the trick? What's the thing that's going to guarantee me? And there's not one. There's no one size fits all answer.
Yeah.
There are some departments out there that their EMTs and paramedics do need to be concealed carry.
Yeah.
There's some.
Because you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're not getting a sheriff's deputy and you're going into a bad situation.
There's some departments out there that the bang of the buck, the bang is worth the buck because you have literally got a gun. But I mean, you think of the training, the equipment, the psychological, because you're arming somebody. So all that you have to put into that person is worth it because they have a realistic need.
Yeah.
Well, you got other departments, they don't need a gun. They're working in.
They don't need a gun.
Chevy Chase, Maryland, someplace super rich. They're going.
And I can see, and I can always see it go sideways with it. I can see them use it. You think about a cop. Talk to any officer involved shooting, and they sit there and second guess themselves. I know medics that want to kill themselves over doing a code wrong because they gave epi at the wrong time or something. You imagine somebody pulls a trigger on somebody and kills somebody? Oh my God!
Or worse yet, pulls a gun and can't pull the trigger.
Well, and then there's the inherent
scenarios.
Inherently, arming EMS kind of contradicts the whole, motto: "Do no harm."
Right.
How do you do no harm, but yet you're armed?
Yeah.
Well, that would be the thing is, like Anthony was saying, the reason you would do it is last ditch.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to get killed, just like the military medics. They didn't carry the sidearm to fight. They carried that sidearm so they could blow their brains out before they could capture. I mean, that was last ditch. So but the reality, I mean, they gave them a pistol because they really weren't there to fight. They were there to do the medic thing. But if
you get a gun, man, you got to be 100% aware of that gun at all times. I know medics that left freaking narcotics out. You imagine a gun. You imagine when a gun comes up missing. You imagine that end of watch report.
So there's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Cons. Pros and cons. But for some departments out there, you go to like Alaska.
Yeah,
that guy's out. He needs. Not just for the patients.
But then you make them a public safety officer. You give them police training, and they know going in. You're a cop, but if you shoot them, you're going to have to treat them. So think about that. I mean,
and they already have that kind of dynamic in your.
They have it already.
Your SWAT teams, and whether it's federal or
now to me,
local.
The SWAT medics, every SWAT medic should be armed because you crazy if you think I'm going in there with no gun. You're out your mind. You're out your mind. To me, if you're going to be a SWAT medic, if you're going to put medics on the line like that, absolutely. And those are the ones I would trust with guns because they would know.
And that's part
of because you have the additional training.
Yes.
That's part of the problem is you got to look at.
And I think you got to look at the future.
You got to look at the actual numbers. You can't go by fear. You can't go by the big calls. The one that gets everybody's attention. You have to really look at how many millions of patients contact do we really have one. And then a lot of that, the safety, to me, everybody's looking for that silver bullet.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, no, you need to go back to his basics.
Yeah.
There was a video, a month ago or whatever, where the guy woke a guy from a heroin overdose.
Yeah, Narcan him on the bus.
Was that the one? And then he wound up shooting a firefighter.
Oh,
So here's the question: why wasn't he shook down while he was still blue?
That's the point I was just about to bring up. Is I mentioned it.
I'll give you one even better. Why are you waking him up?
Right.
I'm gonna go one step further. Why are you even waking him up? Because if his SATs are good and his end tidal goods, because we have all these great monitoring devices that can accurately judge someone's airway with end tidal, not with pulse ox, but at least with end tidal.
Mm-hmm.
He's not vomiting all over himself. Because what are we doing now? Because we talked about violent calls. I think a lot of the violence we're doing ourselves because we're waking people up because everyone's like, Narcan, Narcan,
They're
Narcan.
hypoxic.
How many times have you gone on scenes now and there's like 4 Narcan injectors on this guy who's blue?
And no one's ventilating them.
No airway management. Drugs should be last. That might sound controversial, but it's going to be drugs should be like way down here because guess what? If you can't adequately maintain his airway with suctioning and positioning, then you go to the Narcan because here's the thing: when it doesn't work, it's just like technology. You get that deer in the headlights glaze, and I went on a couple of those calls where they're just like, "Well, it didn't work." Well, yeah, it didn't work. Did you check anything else? Oh, their blood sugar's 32. Oh, wow. Maybe that's why.
Or this was an intentional OD and they took a crap ton of benzos.
A crap ton.
On top of the opiate.
Yep.
There's 4 benzos over here laying over here, empty bottles.
So, yeah, you got the opiate knocked out, but guess what? Benzo's still all over, and you're still looking at them, scratching your head going, man, they're still blue. Well, guess what you're not doing?
Right.
Not bagging the patient. And how many times, and the hospital's just as guilty as that. How many times did you hear on the radio, why are you going to give them Narcan?
Mm-hmm.
No, they're breathing 10 times a minute. How do you even know it's an opiate?
Or they're arousable.
Or guess what? It wasn't an opiate. I'm not going to give it just to give it.
All I got to do is yell at the guy and he'll say what? Okay, that guy, don't. Leave him gorked out.
Leave him.
But we got a bigger problem is we're getting away from the fundamentals.
Yeah.
People are either too scared to go in and they're staying out on everything.
Yeah.
And it goes back to maturity and personal, how do I interact with people? How can I look at that person and go,
and what are they learning? What are they learning? You're learning all this great stuff. That's great. But how about scene safety? How much time do they spend on scene safety? How many times when you went through school did they throw in that patient that had a gun behind the door when you came in? You were like, oh, wow. I was going to a chest pain. Well, guess what? Now your partner's shot. Now you're at a gunshot.
I had somebody the other night. They told me, they said, well, I'm not sticking my hand in the patient's pockets in case they got a needle. I said, that's
fine. Make them do it.
I said, that's reasonable. I said, but you guys are trauma shears, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm like, cut the dude's pants open.
Yeah.
He can get mad. Worst case scenario, you got to buy him a new pair of pants.
Sorry, son.
But if that's your concern, take your trauma shears and cut down his pants.
Jackets. There should not be one in the winter. There should not be one jacket on in that ambulance.
You go into these, you go into these, what do they call them? These roach motels, and you don't know where there's a needle.
Nope.
That you could lean on with your knee. It's dark.
So you go in some of these places, there's needles all over the place.
Yeah, and nobody's checking.
Guess what? They put out a video of a guy in a interrogation room that pulls out this freaking hand cannon, this nickel-plated 45 hand cannon.
The old Live Leak video?
And I mean, just pulls this thing out, takes a deep breath, pulls the trigger, just eats this bullet. And it's real. Like, it is real. Guy's hands, as soon as he does it, goes in, and he's, like, out. And cops said never shook him. Well, someone sent that out as a video. The next day, we go on a girl that's a suicide call. She's sitting on her bed real nice. Schizophrenia. Sitting on her bed real nice. Cops right up on her, right? Fire crew's right up on her. I walk up, I start pulling the pillows away from her. And big old butcher knife under the freaking pillow. The cop goes, that's right, man. I saw that video. And I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're... And they were leaning over her and taking their blood pressure and not paying... Man.
So you have to take a realistic look at it and say, where, everybody's thinking body armor is going to save you.
Yeah, they ain't going to save you.
In the right time, in the right place.
Scene awareness.
You may need body armor.
You might.
But body armor is not going to save you from that.
Scene awareness is what's going to, having your head on a swivel. When you're pulling a 26-hour shift, still having it in you to pay attention. I think that's the other thing. They working these guys. They worked us to death too. I mean, and that doesn't make it right either. I mean, there were times.
Back to the money issue.
Yeah.
These guys are working 2-3 jobs just to make a decent income.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest consideration.
The dude pulling 36-hour overtime shifts. Oh man, I remember those days.
Comes to me and says, "I want to be a medic, or I want to make a career out of this." The first thing I'm
don't have a
looking at
family
is so you want to live paycheck to paycheck the rest of your life. That's cool if you want to do that.
Yeah.
If that's your passion and you're not about the money and you're about this is what I do for a living. Just like being a priest or whatever. I'm never going to get rich. Well, some priests get rich, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, not everyone going to be at the
come into this business. If your mindset is, you're never going to get rich.
Yeah. Be prepared to travel. I'll tell you, and you could do it if you hop around. Hey man, I'm going to go work in New Orleans for a year. I'm going to go work in Kwajalein. I'm going to go work in Kwajalein. On one of these military bases for 2 years, dude. You can make sick, ridiculous money, but don't have a family, and travel around.
If you do want to make six figures, you need to get your degree. You need to get some kind of public administration degree, business degree, and then you're looking at the chief track. Which means moving departments.
Correct.
Because a lot of departments.
You're not going to pick one department.
Don't come up that big city departments.
And start little. You start a little department. You just work your way up.
Right.
That's it.
But you gotta really stop and say to yourself, man, what am I? But the pay is a big issue. And because face it, good.
And mobility, upward mobility. You're only going to get so high. Even as a medic, you're only going to, you're a master paramedic or senior paramedic. I mean, that's it. That's as far as it goes, right?
The other big thing that a lot of them don't think about when they're young and healthy is you're one injury away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You get in a car accident, you're on your way to a call.
You got a better shot of getting, getting hurt going to a call.
Right.
Than anything.
You break a hip, somebody T-bones you and, crushes your lower body.
You go through a deck, you're at a patient's house and go through their floor.
Yeah. Do you think workers' comp's going to cover that?
Nope.
Nope.
Not. You see Ohio, was it, I think, just pulled PTSD from their workman's comp claim.
Really?
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. Because it's fading out now. Now it's fading out. They don't care. They really don't. They really don't. There's a lot of departments that were just like, you got to put the little mask out that they're doing something.
And that's another half of it. You got to look at this kid and say, hey, what's your personality like?
Yeah.
Boy or girl, whatever,
What are you going to be able to handle seeing?
Realizing, that after 20 years, are you going to be able to, brush it off? Like some people can. Some people are like, hey, man, they the other people.
You got to look at it and be like, man, it sucks. It's life. Move on. And a lot of people
can't do that.
Well, a lot of people back when we were in couldn't do it. I remember stories. I know one girl, they had a story where she worked back-to-back PEDS codes, back-to-back, was volunteer and just went in the bunk room and said, I just want to be left alone. And when they went to see her in the morning, she had her uniform there. She had slipped out during the night and left a note and said, don't contact me. Don't talk to me. That's it. Mm-hmm. But it's the ones that stay in for a year and then you do pay $12,000 in college. And they're like, they see their first bad call and they're going, well, I got to keep going. I had to pay off all this stuff. Got to keep going. That's why I think making them be an EMT for 3 years, you'll know real quick. Mm-hmm. You'll know real quick.
And I don't even know in the paramedic class, I don't even know how much they're even touching on that now.
They're not.
In the class.
They're not. I think that it's probably a 2-minute blurb. Like,
are they even giving these people, a heads up that, hey, there's a price to be paid in addition to all the rest of it?
I don't think they're touching on it.
They didn't touch on it when we were in. They said, fine, you'll find out.
And you do. I mean, you have to look at the net. Because to me, I mean, I'm not a big, huge numbers guy, but some of them stand out. Like, you look at the suicide rates.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are surprised how high the female firefighter and the female firefighter paramedic suicide rate is amongst all females in the country. Yeah. I think the only trade that beats them, I believe it is lawyer. I mean, I haven't looked it up in probably a year, but if you look at the CDC, you look at all the different places that collect this data, you look at it and you go, holy crap. Like, of all these jobs out here, female firefighter is way up there. And no one's asking why.
Nope.
No. So,
and that's something to tell a kid. You got a young lady, 19 years old, says, hey, I want to go into fire service or I want to go into become a paramedic. You got to look, are you aware that this is
a thing?
Yeah. If you were going into a job and if I said to you, hey, you are, of all the jobs in the country, you're number 2 for getting cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to go into it, cool.
So you want to work at that nuclear plant, that's cool. Yeah. Is the money right? Is it your passion? Whatever you
crow that 11th toe.
But recognize that, as statistically speaking, you're going to be the highest risk, second highest risk of cancer. But people don't look at it that way.
Well, and that's where, like, sort of the career path question comes up is, should there be an alternative path? Because, you guys have been doing it a lot longer than I have.
What would be the alternative?
I don't know. But that's where.
What do you mean an alternative path?
Well, the community paramedicine stuff, or just having a range. Like, does a paramedic have to do there's transport and stuff,
Yeah.
but does it if you're a 911 paramedic working for a municipality or whatever, working private 911, does your career path have to strictly involve responding to emergencies?
No, I think you're going to see community
Yeah,
I think
but
you're going to have to see
I think
community
that comes hand in
paramedicine.
glove with your licensure, though.
Yeah.
In order to do that, you have to have degree programs.
Mhm.
You have to have more than just how to take a blood pressure, how to push a drug, because you're going to have writing classes. You're going to have, you got to have
These people want them to write scripts. They want them to be able to get refusals and legally get
just all of
refusals.
it. I mean, just
Treat and release.
just like college.
Yeah.
Your gen ed courses,
Yeah.
you got to have them.
Yeah, you're not gonna trust some 19-year-old kid doing a treat and release. You're just not going. You're not gonna have a successful program if you do.
Yeah.
That's gonna be definitely someone with not only more training, but they're gonna have a whole different mindset.
Yeah,
Because there's people that listen. We had medics out there. I had a crew one time that bragged. They're like, I got 13 patient refusals, and I'm going, man,
Jeez.
that's bragging. Are you kidding me?
right.
Now you imagine a treat and release that's like that. And see what the downfall of those programs is. You could be 99.9% on the ball. That 0.1 that you miss and that person dies. That'll end a program like that.
And you're looking at
Immediately
malpractice insurance. You're
Yep.
going to have to make the salaries, or the department's going to have to provide it. Somebody's going to have to pay for malpractice insurance, because that's going to rear its ugly head.
Well, but then that's where you're operating under your OMD. Well, if
And
the
I
OMD
think-
signs off on it.
I think those programs you're going to see under a hospital.
I mean,
I think that's where you're going to see those programs.
And,
You
and
turf
the,
it off to
the
them.
liability part, I mean, you do. I mean, you have these FaceTime. I mean, I don't know what the hell the technology is called, but I mean, if you can FaceTime somebody
Yeah.
from a cell phone, then you can interface with a doc at some point.
And they have them.
And say, here's
They
what
have
the patient looks like. This is what I got. I just sent you telemetry for EKG. Here's the ISTAT numbers, what have you. And the doc can help make and take a lot of that liability on.
But you're still going to have those patients that as soon as they hang up that phone, they're going to say, yeah, I want to go to the hospital.
But see, that's the thing. That opens you up to being able to say no.
Yeah.
An example I use there is law enforcement. How many times do we go to law enforcement and they tell a guy, you skinned your knee. The medic is here to bandage it. No, you're not going to.
Well, but that's because if they're cuffed,
they're in custody.
Officer is taking responsibility.
But I'm saying we need to be able to do that. We need to have.
Well, then you need to have people stand behind it, because the problem with EMS also is you can do 99.9% of your calls perfectly, and that 0.1% they're going to skin you.
Well, that's a whole other conversation. Is because up at the top, the people who make the rules, the politicians, they have no clue what we do.
Nothing.
And that's the problem. We have no teeth. We have no teeth in anything. Because I mean, should we have the ability to tell somebody you're an abuser of the system, what you have going on is not an emergency, and we're not transporting. Here's a clinic ticket, here's whatever, we'll make you an appointment, what have you. But I mean, we've all been there. We've all seen those people.
And then you get one social media post.
Yep.
You get one news report. I saw a news report up in Philly where the ambulance had pulled over, turned on their lights, and the paramedic got out and said something to the guy in the truck. Now, everybody knows he probably told the guy, yo, you're like riding my ass, like, get off my tailgate. 6 o'clock news. The reporters are like, we would love to know what he said to them. Why would an ambulance ever do that? And I'm just going, everything now is, oh, what's that story? Oh, there's lights on. Oh, what's going on? And then you get a 2-second video that makes it on Facebook, or you get someone say, ambulance told me not to go to the hospital. And then that's it. The whole program goes up in smoke.
Well, then you look at overseas, like NHS over in the UK. They so once their system reaches capacity for 911 calls, they go in, I think it's condition purple or something like that.
Yeah.
But they start telling people no. Like, hey, they hold calls too.
Oh, yeah.
They hold calls for 12 hours.
But that's because that's nationalized. That's national. That's why they do that?
National health.
Because you have to wait 12, not for the ambulance. You have to wait 12 hours for that hospital bed to open up. That's the problem. Yeah, UK is.
But they'll tell you no too. Like, hey, you twisted your ankle.
But again, you're not going to sue the government.
Dying around the
now,
corner.
see, you're not going to sue the UK government because that's who's telling you. But sure as hell going to sue AMR.
You got to get
the city of X.
You got to get the political powers up top. I mean, the Narcan is a wonderful example. These folks, they come up with all these city, county, municipality funded Narcan programs, which
Yeah.
is great because yes, there are lives going to be saved there. But what's the follow up?
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, you gave him Narcan. This is the 12th
Right.
time this week you gave him Narcan. Where's the substance
It needed
abuse?
to be written.
Yeah.
If public safety gives you Narcan, then you're under an immediate 24-hour
Correct.
custody order.
One
You're
of
going to go to the hospital. We're going to, at the very least, detox you.
Mhm.
We're going to offer you treatment options. It's no guarantee,
No.
but you know.
And then here's the flip side of that. Now, when you do that, people don't call 911 for overdoses, and everyone dies. Guess who's the bad guy?
Well, here's the unintended consequence of it.
Mm-hmm.
So Narcan is so prolific. It's so easy to get.
Yep.
It's so cheap.
You get it. They give it out when you get a prescription for morphine. You
Well,
get Narcan.
here's the thing that's making me wonder. I'm hearing a lot of agencies say, "Well, our overdose numbers are going down."
Yeah.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Or are people Narcanning each other and never calling 911?
I think it's the latter. And
I don't
think
know.
people are
I don't know
probably
how you
doing it.
capture that. I don't know if anybody's trying, but I have a sneaky suspicion that no, it's not that the numbers are going down. They
Well,
might
you know,
be going
you
up.
have states that are saying that they're making the drug dealers putting them on for murder if that person dies.
Right.
So if I sold you a dime bag and they have fentanyl in it and that person dies, I'm up for murder. Now, you know that's an unsavory group to begin with. So you have the people that are buying, they're not going to go call, you know, if they know they're going to have to rat their dealer out, they're not going to call.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to call. We'll go back to the days when they were in bathtubs of ice.
But I mean,
The days that
it's
still
still
happen.
I know. I
No,
laughed.
still
I did see that. I did see that one. I laughed. I was like, oh, old school. I think I actually walked and said, oh, we got an old school one over here.
That's a perfect example of well-intentioned politicians and administrators.
Yeah.
that
It looks good on the press.
It
looks good.
and it is. They're trying to do something.
Since
But
they created it.
They don't look at the backside of it and say, man, are we really making a difference?
I could tell you the day that they started attaching HCAP scores to pain management is the day that they started that ball rolling.
I mean, and think about it. If you're in a group of junkies and you can get Narcan no problem,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you say
Hey,
no?
I'm going to go back in the day. Do you remember when we had the big heroin surge and medics used to just leave Narcan out? Be like, look, I go to you like 10 times a day. Here's this and a needle. Just shoot him with this. Just hit him in the thigh with it. It's right around when Pulp Fiction came out. Everyone's like, oh, wait.
Stab him
I
in
want
the
to give
chest
him.
with the
I want to give him
epi.
in the chest. No, not in the chest. You just hit him in the leg with this. Hit him, and they're good. Oh yeah. I heard stories of medics doing that in certain
And
cities.
I'm actually surprised somebody hasn't come up with like a EpiPen, a Narcan.
I know an auto
No, they do.
injector.
They do.
Yeah,
They
they
have
got them.
one?
I think cops got them, don't they?
There's
Well, they have the nasals. but-
there's a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if it's called Dope, but there's a documentary on Netflix that's following a heroin crisis in some city out
Yeah.
Midwest somewhere, and
They got
the police
horrible
officers
out
have
there.
auto injectors.
So there you go.
Yep.
So I mean, if you
It's like a box. And
so it's almost. I have a feeling that there's people out there, much like with alcohol, dedicated drivers. What they call designated drivers. That there's people out
Designated
there
Narcan
that
guy.
I'm the designated Narcan. I may
Yeah.
not do it, or I may, whatever.
I'm on safety watch.
Right, but it's my turn.
And then you're
tonight.
fucked when that guy passes out.
Well, that's the thing. It's only as honorable as can be. But I wonder how many of them out there are ODing. Their buddies waking them up with Narcan, and we never get the call.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
I'm sure. Hey, dude, I'm gonna do it now. You do it when I wake up.
Right. Or tonight's my turn to not party, not till later on tonight, and or at least until you're safe. I mean,
Because it's the ultimate. What other drug do you have the ultimate reversal for? You get too drunk and start throwing up everywhere.
almost none. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
none.
really done.
Yeah, because you don't want to
gotta
give
power through it.
Ramazicon. Bad thing with Ramazicon, they like
No,
they like to seize.
you
It's
put
better
it-
to just bag them and
Let 'em
maybe
ride it
throw a
out.
tube at them. But see, I'm a big proponent for that with Narcan. I think that's the other big problem is they are waking them up instead of doing airway management, bringing them in.
Well,
Then when they come around, now they're already at the hospital.
and that's the
You're
problem
here now.
Is Narcan's. It's like almost having a fire suppression system. It's for the layperson.
Yeah.
It's for that cop. It's for that family member. It's for that school nurse who doesn't really have the training or the tools, but at least they can start the process to save their life.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing. But
It's when the follow-up people that are supposed to be doing the treatment just keep giving the freaking Narcan, and it's like, yo, cuz it didn't work 10 minutes ago.
Well, I think the
Probably not going to work now.
I think the auto injectors are like 4 milligrams too. So you're just bam.
right.
I mean, on the
They're
bright
gonna wake up.
on the
Well,
bright
it's gonna
side
be
with the
IM,
auto
they're
injector,
coming
that
up.
way you at least know they're getting the drug, and if it doesn't work, then you know you need to move on to something
I was a
else.
big IM person. I didn't like that intranasal stuff. I never trusted
I mean,
it.
it's each got its pros and cons.
If you
Never
give it
trusted
right,
it.
if you give it right, it works. But you got these guys that are unconscious, heroin overdose, and they got vomit just coming out of their nose.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they shoot the Narcan, and they give them 4 or 6 milligrams of Narcan
in the vomit,
and they're like, it's not working, and it's like because their entire airway is saturated with vomit.
I walked into the call one time and the guy's giving the Narcan. You're supposed to give Narcan slow if it's IV. He's giving it slow intranasal. He's going late, and I'm watching him, and he's like, and I'm rolling. I'm just rolling because I'm just not saying nothing. They're like, it didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes this stuff's resistant. Let's get him in the truck. And I just hit him with IM while we were talking. I just went up on him and just hit him in the thigh. And as we're going down the stairs, the guy starts breathing more. And it was more controlled, right? The guy starts turning around. He starts breathing. And he's like, oh, my God, I guess it started working. I'm like, yeah, I guess it did.
But it's a huge ball of wax because even if you ECO them, now that's a hospital bed being tied up.
Yeah, hospital's not crazy about that.
There's a psych bed somewhere getting tied up.
And there's that would be such hard legislation because what about,
now who's going to pay that bill? Now you're going to make that guy pay that bill?
What about,
because they ain't got no insurance.
Well, or what about Meemaw that's prescribed morphine and accidentally forgot to take their patch off, their fentanyl patch off, and they took an extra morphine.
Yeah, now you're going to ECO her.
Now you're going to kidnap grandma because she
but typically she's not going to refuse. Typically, when she realizes, oh crap, I've made a medication error, I mean, they're going to say, yeah, let grandma go to the hospital so she can be observed. Make sure this is,
yeah, because guess what? If you do have to go to her 6 times a day, guess what? I hate to tell you, it ain't a mistake. After the third time, grandma's getting high on purpose.
But there's certain situations.
Absolutely.
Where the person doesn't want to go.
You don't have to make a blanket policy. You can say it's the determination of the person. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the cops are going to be the one that's going to have to do it. Because imagine making us take custody of people to take them to the hospital. Yeah, that'll go over great.
It'd be just like every other EC.
You got
That cop's got tools and resources that he or she can say, hey, and for the frequent flyer OD. And what scares me is you hear these municipalities, counties, West Virginia, rural America, they're getting on a
we hear some of them said that they don't want to they're not going to give Narcan anymore. You have some of them like, we're not giving it. Because the cost has gone through the roof.
And they're getting killed. I mean, there a dozen overdoses in one town or one county in a shift. And
it's a tough question, man.
What was it, about a year ago we were seeing that? Somebody, was it upstate New York or something? They had like some crazy...
Well, I know they had one in West Virginia. There was some little town in West Virginia that said they prescribed more pain medicine there than anywhere else in the country.
As well.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing about that. I know it's a huge... I mean, again... The people that worked in the hospital saw this one coming a mile away.
But we're no different than the rest of the healthcare system. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff is overwhelming us. And it ain't just the overdoses. I mean, it's the gunshots. I couldn't even imagine what being a medic in Chicago is like. Oh, my Lord. And then to tell that guy, no, you don't need body armor or maybe side armor.
Or side armor, too.
I'm not going to tell that guy.
Well, and that's the other thing is you can't paint EMS with a broad brush.
You can't. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Nope.
And people want to do that, though. Administrators.
Yeah.
City managers. All these people. Is your buddy?
Yeah.
All these people, they want this one-size-fits-all magic pill that's going to save it. And no, what works for one department may not work. The fire-based EMS model works great for some cities and municipalities. Others, it's a third service private. Others, it's their own, third service municipal. I mean, everything depends on what can you afford, what do you need, what level of care do you need? Do you have an hour transport on average, or is it a 5-minute transport?
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's face it, even a rookie EMT can usually hold their own for a 5-minute ride to the hospital.
Hey, man.
But you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and you've got an hour to heat, bad weather, the helos ain't flying. Holy crap! That's a lot of skill and knowledge that's going to come into play. So it just depends. All those questions, people, and that's the problem. People don't want to look at it honestly. They don't want to look at it and say, dude, you really don't need RSI.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need Doppler or what's it with ultrasound.
Somebody asked me the other day about blood products. They said, what do you feel about blood products? Paramedic student. And I said, well, first question I want to ask is, how many people do we actually have die from bleeding out after we get there? Because if you're bled out before I get there, chances are, even if I bring a gallon of blood with me,
Yeah, it ain't gonna be.
Yeah,
You already got total organ shut down.
gonna
You're
wind
done.
up
yeah,
in DIC
and
or
we're not
whatever.
and we're not doing Roboa and field thoracotomies and stuff.
So, but you look
Yeah,
at
so
the
you're
blood-
dumping blood into a hole that's just going to
Yeah,
fill up
right.
more.
Yeah.
And you look at a blood product, is what's the cost? You know, how often? I mean, I hate to
Yeah.
say it, people think, oh, you're horrible, but if you only have 2 people a year,
Where's that money best spent?
right?
Is that money best spent on tourniquets? Is that money best spent on quick clot? Or is that money best spent on,
Training.
Mhm.
You know, is it
Yeah.
money spent? And then the other thing is, of those 2, were they going to die anyway?
Yeah.
So you got to do a study.
Yeah.
You got to trial it and say, okay, we've had it going for a year. Guess what? We had 2 more die this year in spite of the blood because they were going to die anyway.
And then what's your transport time? How long you got to get to a trauma center? Yeah, there's more than just. And that's the other thing is we still jump. I mean, like I said before, man, remember when pulse ox was a big thing and that was the biggest thing? And that was the biggest thing for a while. Now it's like every conference you go to, man, they have all kinds of toys now, all kinds of stuff.
Because that's the money. That's the
Mhm.
next greatest. What can I convince everyone that they need it?
Yeah.
You know, and there are some things like Capno. That's you need
Yeah.
that. You know, if you're not doing
Yeah, some things
Well,
you
they
need.
got
Some things
BV,
you gotta
they got
have.
BVMs that have PEEP. Like you can
Yeah.
adjust PEEP on your BVM now. So when you RSI your patient who's got whatever
We had
alveoli
PEEP
collapse
valves.
and
we used to,
Yeah,
it depends
we
on
had
the
PEEP
agency.
valves.
Some of them are not adjustable.
We had-
well, not all of them are
Listen,
adjustable.
we had bag valve masks you had to break down and clean. You remember those days, right? You had to clean them. Or remember the EOA? Oh my God, man. EOA was rough, man.
Esophageal obturator airway. Right?
Oh.
Hand in glove with the FROP VD.
Oh,
You
son.
know what a FROP VD is?
no.
Flow restricted oxygen powered ventilation device. It was kind of like the oxalator. It was kind of like
Only on steroids. Like you got 50 liters of air, whether you wanted it or not.
It was like pulling up into the car garage with the fucking air compressor.
You ever see one of them old 70s movies, right? Where they got that master put on and they keep pushing that button?
Mm-hmm.
You were getting, and I think it was like 40 liters. It was like 40 liters, whether you wanted it or not. So, oh God, how much barotrauma.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, just think how much vomit they pushed in there. Oh.
I don't know if they ever, I mean, it's obviously not in use anymore, but I don't know if they ever looked at it. Or
and you knew it was big because the oxygen bottles were like this. Hey, I remember watching my first thumper. I was up at this big city hospital, man, and we were just delivering a patient. And I turn around and I see this dude is like flopping, like he's flying, right? And they had this big, huge device, man, this thumper, and it just was going down, and this guy's just going up like this. And I'm like,
to mount him on the side
what the hell is
It
that?
used to be a thing you would pull it out to the wall of the ambulance. The old van ambulances where you had patients up against one side of the wall.
Ambulances, man.
You would pull it out, you would lock it in place, and you would bring it down. And it was this big boxing glove thumper thing.
Dude, it would like squeeze their chest. I think it stopped when it hit their freaking spinal column. Man. I'm telling you, it was no joke. I think it was ridiculous.
And then you look at, going back to your whole thing of the certification versus licensure, degree programs. Is it going to, you look at the hospital-based system. Is that really where the future lies, where these medics are working in the hospital with the nurses and the doctors so that they gain that trust? They gain that camaraderie, versus some guy who sits in a fire station who they never, you look at a lot of agencies. How many of the nurses and doctors even know who the fire guys are? Unless you're riding the ambulance regularly and transporting regularly.
I can tell you hospital-based is going to be where you're going to get, and that's in some cases, because I know there's some states where they are hospital-based and they don't let them do anything, but I think that's your best chance because especially now, you got taxes going up, you got people don't want to pay more money, and you got ambulance bills in some places that are just hundreds of dollars.
And
just
ridiculous. Federal reimbursement.
Well, the minimum bill is like almost $400 for just a BLS quick run.
Holy crap! Really?
Mm-hmm. If it's
like
BLS,
twisted my ankle in.
Mm-hmm. BLS quick
Isn't
run.
it crazy when you are in a city that doesn't charge, and then you hear hospital bills? My grandmother got a hospital bill in New Jersey for something like $1,200 because they have NICUs up there, so their medics are based out of a hospital. So you got 2 guys that sit on a truck and they run out of the hospital. They might post them somewhere, but mostly they're out of hospital. So we get moved.
Yeah, just gonna adjust the angle a little bit.
I'm gonna go check the leak right quick.
Okay. I think we can cut that up.
Yeah.
I think we can splice that. I think we can. Just put that out as a little thing,
Call it a wrap.
don't you think? I mean, we don't even need introduction. You can just be like, just like little practice session.
Sounds good to me. I'll pause it right now.
I think so.